Welcome everyone to tonight's council meeting. I'm the Mayor, Councillor Rankarasik. I declare this meeting open at 7 p.m. Due to the declaration of state of emergency in Victoria and in compliance with the Local Government Act 2020, councils, we will be attending this council meeting by electronic means. The council chamber is closed to members of the public for this meeting. However, this meeting is deemed open to the public via an online live stream available through our link published on the Brimbank City Council's website. Members of the public will not be recorded in this process. Councillors, please stand for the acknowledgement on the On behalf of Brimbank City Council, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Wurundjeri people, and pay our respect to elders past, present, and emerging. Councillors, can you please remain standing for the council commitment? As the council, we will act in the best interest of the Brimbank community and consider the immediate and long-term impact of our decisions. We'll make these decisions fairly and without bias. We will uphold all of our obligations under the laws of Victoria and Council's local laws, and we will act in accordance with our code of conduct. Please be seated. We'll go to item 3, which is apologies. There is no apologies this evening. Item 4, declaration of interest. Are there any, declaration of conflict. Are there any declaration of conflicts of interest for tonight, councillors?
None.
Madam Mayor?
Yep.
Madam Mayor, I move that the item listed as item number 9, public question time on the agenda to be considered after the item listed in the agenda as item 13, after notice of motion before the item listed as item 14, notice of motion recession.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I would like to second that motion. Thank you.
All in favour, please raise your hands. I declare this motion carried. So we're going to go to item 5, which is designation of items as confidential. There are 5 items to be designated as confidential. May I have a mover of a motion to designate the items as confidential? Councillor Papalia.
Yes, I move the motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor David? You're on mute, Councillor David.
Seconded by Madam Mayor, sorry, yes, thank you.
Would anyone like to speak to this motion, councillors? I put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. I declare this motion carried. I'm going to go to item 6, which is confirmation of minutes of previous meetings. May I have a mover of a motion to confirm the minutes of the previous council meeting? Councillor Borg.
I move the motion as per business papers.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Nguyen.
The motion, Madam Mayor.
Would anyone like to speak to this motion? Put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. I declare this motion carried. I'm going to go to item 7, which is condolences. There are no condolences for tonight. Item 8, congratulations. There is one item of congratulations. Item 8.1, thankful for farmers. May I have a mover of a motion of congratulations? Councillor Tarkos.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the motion as per business papers.
Thank you, Councillor Tarkus. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Borg?
I'll second that. Thank you.
Would anyone like to speak to this motion? Councillor Tarkus?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, on Tuesday, the 7th of September, between 10:30 and 12, the Neighbourhood Houses unit facilitated a pop-up farmers metro market for vulnerable people in Brimbank. This was a partnership with Food Bank, Derrimut Primary School and Derrimut YMCA. Approximately 200 hampers were taken up by our community members. The majority of the community came through vehicles and it was contact-free. The take-up of these hampers from low-income families shows the growing need, especially in our community as this pandemic does drag on. Madam Mayor, this is just a congratulations for the kind support that promotes this kind of connection for community building, and it was met with great spirits by all of our community. The Farms to Families project is funded by Food Bank Victoria and supported by the state government. I'd like to thank them very much for this important gesture. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Borg, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I would also like to join Councillor Tarkus in thanking everyone involved in this generous donation, including the schools that took part in it. Thank you, everyone, and congratulations.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to this motion? I put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. I declare this motion carried. Since item 9 was public question and it was moved at the end of this meeting, we're going to go to item 10, which is petitions. There are no petitions to be received. Item 11, minutes reports of delegated committees. There are no minutes or reports of delegated committees for tonight. I'm going to go to item 12, officers' reports. There are 18 officers' reports for consideration by council tonight. Before we consider report 12.1, governance report, I would like to invite Mr. Gail Harry, Chair of the Audit and Risk Committee, to address the council and provide an update on behalf of committee. Thank you. So now we're going to move to report 12. Yep. Thank you, Gail. We can't
Hi,
hear
Madam
you.
Mayor. How are you?
Good. How are you tonight?
Good, thank you. Would you like me to do my presentation?
Yes, please. Thank you.
I
Thank you. Yep.
I understand you've got limited time. I'll be able to get through this very quickly. I did ask that someone would run the slideshow for me so I would not lose sight of your faces. And there it is. So next page, thanks. So just very quickly, that's what I'm going to cover this evening. There are things in your agenda tonight which are quite relevant to what the Audit Committee does, so I'll cover those off. Next slide, thanks. So just a quick reminder, councillors, of what the Audit Committee does. I'm guessing that you all know, but I just wanted to refresh everyone. The agenda, your agenda this evening very much focuses on item 1 and item 4 of the ARC's role, and I'll get to those in a moment. Next slide, thanks. So the purpose of this presentation is twofold. Firstly, to report to you on the activities of the committee for the year. And in fact, what I can say is that you've got in attachment 8 And at agenda item 12.7, the items that I'm going to refer to. Attachment 8 is the annual report from the committee for the work, giving you an update on the work we've done for the year. You will consider that in due course. You may have already read it. And I'm happy to take questions on that at the end. But the second part of this evening in my presentation relates very much to documents you'll be looking at and being asked to approve this evening. The annual financial report, which is an audited document, audited by the Auditor General of Victoria. And the second is the annual performance statement, which is also audited by the Victorian Auditor General's Office. Next slide, thanks. So just very quickly, I wanted to touch on 3 key things I see as chair that I think are critical to a functioning and effective audit committee. This is the first one, that the audit committee maintains its independence. And you can see from those dot points that we've maintained our independence right through the year. There were no conflicts of interest to be declared, so all members were able to partake in all matters of discussion during the year at our committee meetings. Next slide, thanks. And the second key attribute is member commitment to the committee. You will see from this slide that we've had almost 100% attendance right throughout the year, which is an excellent commitment level, I believe. So next slide, thanks. And the third point is about officer support. The committee really does rely heavily on officers to support the work we do. And I guess as chair, I see a lot of that, and I know that there's a lot of time, commitment and resource required. And I always feel that we are totally supported as a committee by officers, the work they do and the reports they provide to us. So we've really enjoyed that support during the year. Next slide, thanks. So now going to, I think, the agenda items that you'll need to consider later this evening. This is Council's annual reporting obligations. I referred to them earlier. The first one is the annual financial report and the annual performance statement, which are prepared at 30th of June each year. And I think at item 12.7 on your agenda, you'll be asked to approve those documents in principle. They are audited documents, as I said earlier. The information shown in the annual performance statement is also loaded onto the Know Your Council website. So it gets a broader audience beyond just a set of papers for signature. And the third point to make here is that the Audit and Risk Committee plays a key role in providing support to the committee in terms of considering these reports tonight later in your agenda. Next slide, thanks. So in respect to that matter, this slide is really about giving you comfort and assurance that we've done our work and feel strongly that those documents that you will be asked to approve in principle are valid and can be approved in principle. So just for quickly, the 5 points there. We've monitored the audit process both for the financial statements and the performance statements. We've watched the audit strategy. We've watched the outcomes of audit procedures. We've seen the audit opinion and we've seen the audit recommendations. We've also reviewed interim financial statements during the year. And we've also reviewed the annual financial report and the APS ourselves. And we've cleared any questions that we've had of officers so that there are no lingering questions from our perspective. Officers provide representations. I'm now at point 4. Officers provide representations to both the Victorian Auditor General and to Council to indicate that everything or to confirm that they've done everything that they can to ensure that these documents are valid. And we've seen those representations and they contain no qualifications. So we're resolved as a committee to recommend to council that at your meeting this evening that you approve in principle the annual financial report and the annual performance statement. Next slide, thanks. Just quickly, they were the outcomes of the process. We felt the financial year-end close was efficient. It always is at Brimbank, I've got to say. There were no surprises in the audit. It was a very clean audit in terms of both reports. There were very few issues raised by the auditors, which again, I think is a source of assurance and comfort for council. The management representations were free of limitation, and there were very minor changes required to the financial report and the performance statement as a result of the Audit and Risk Committee's review. So all in all, a really strong result and no issues of any concern. So I think that's all I'm going to say about the year-end close process. I'll move to some other slides in a moment, but I think the two councillors, Councillor David and Councillor Kerr, who sit on the audit committee, have seen all of that happen, and they may have views they wish to share later. Next slide, thanks. So just recapping again, these are the other things that the Audit and Risk Committee does during the year. These are standard items, and these are the things that you charge the committee to be responsible for. Next slide, thanks. So in terms of risk management, I'm not going to talk to these items, but I've listed them just to show you the sorts of the flavour of the things we've looked at during the year. They all pertain to risk, and we've received reports that help us feel comfortable that all of these issues are being addressed as they should be. I'm just turning to my page here. So I've got no other, the other point that doesn't appear there, which councillors may wonder about, but certainly it is in the risk register, and that's to do with the risk of climate change issues. That is there. I've not listed it here. I apologise, but I wouldn't want you to think that it's any lesser of importance. Next slide, thanks. So in the internal audit program for the year, we have a 3-year program, and we've got a new internal auditor, and the 3-year plan includes a 1-year specific plan, which has been adopted and is now underway. So we're monitoring the delivery of that plan, but for the year just gone, you can see there the 5 areas of review that occurred during the year. I don't think I want to say anything about those other than that they were regarded as important reviews, and the outcomes, I think, of all of them were quite strong, which is good to see. The new internal audit service provider has settled in. We haven't seen much of their work yet because they've just started, but we'll see a lot more of that going into the next year. And the other thing that we do, which is important, is we monitor progress of officers' work in closing out issues raised by the internal auditors. And I've got to say that, I see many councils, audit committees, and I would say that in terms of the numbers of actions that I see, Brimbank certainly is at the lower end of the spectrum in terms of issues, which helps to, I think, indicate that there's a reasonably strong control environment, which is what you always want to see as a member of an audit committee. Next slide, thanks. And going to the internal audit, the internal control environment, these have been the areas of focus for 2021. I'm thinking that none of that will surprise you. You will see there's some policies there that we know were implemented during the year. We continue to watch the internal and external audit recommendations. As I mentioned a moment ago, they are well under control in terms of progress to completion. And we also look at the impacts of any changes that systems on systems that may impact the control environment. I've made a note at the bottom there about delegations. That's an important issue for the Audit and Risk Committee, but it's something that we, just because of timing and planning of workload, we didn't look at that this year, but I know that it's on the radar for next year. Next slide, thanks. These are the compliance matters that we've considered during the year. We receive regular reports on these matters. Some of these are on this list for the first time because of the new Local Government Act. Some of them have been there for a long time. Next slide, thanks. The other thing that we do that seems to gather pace every year is the reports that come out of the various integrity agencies in the state of Victoria. The Victorian Auditor General's Office, IBAC, and the Ombudsman all get pretty excited with their workload. The Audit Committee has actually looked at the sexual harassment review outcomes that VAGO did for Victorian local government. We are watching Council's response to that because we regard that as a very important matter. Obviously, the local roads issue as well has been the subject of discussion at our meetings. I don't think there's anything else on that list I need to touch on, but you can see that it's a varied list. And I think it's fair to say that the sorts of work that the integrity agencies do will certainly just continue, I think, to gather pace. Next slide, thanks. We also did an assessment of our performance as a committee, and this slide summarises the outcomes of that. I think you'll be receiving a separate report on this evening. So what we do is we do a survey of members of the committee. It's a self-assessment, and also we ask senior officers to do it as well. We like to compare the results. Sometimes it gives us some interesting insights about how officers are seeing us and how we're seeing ourselves. Those dot points at the top of this slide are the areas where we ask survey questions. And look, the outcomes, I've just summarised them there at the bottom of the slide. There was a very strong positive assessment by everyone involved in the Audit Committee. There was a couple of matters highlighted for consideration, and there was discussion at our last meeting on these points. The first of them was about training and the fact that we don't seem to have a formal induction program of training. It was observed by a number of people, and I think both councillor members and independent members alike felt that there's probably more that we can do there. So we've resolved to actually look at that and see how we can support new members, particularly council members who can change more regularly than independent members who are there for a three-year term. So that's on our radar. We had a good discussion at the last meeting about that. And there's a few things that I think I've agreed to take action on to address that issue. There was also an interesting assessment of external audit. Basically, the view was that we haven't really assessed external audit performance. That is to say, the Auditor General's performance. At Brimbank, the Auditor General appoints an agent to do the work. To some degree, this point of concern is not a major issue because the agent that was appointed for the audit over the last 3 years has just concluded their term, and there will be a new audit agent in place for next year. So I think we're alerted now that we need to make sure that our work program does have an assessment of the work of the external auditor in place, and we'll make sure that happens going forward. Next slide, thanks. So here's a bit of a list, if you like, of the things that are sitting on the ARC's radar. I'm not going to talk to these items, but I'm just giving you a bit of a sense of the things that we think about and talk about at our meetings. And again, I'd make the comment that climate change is an oversight in terms of me preparing the slides. It should be there, but it's not. I apologise. So the things that audit committees generally are really concerned about these days are cybersecurity. We've seen what's happened at Stonnington recently. That's just a really big wake-up call for everybody, not just in local government. It's not hard for these things to happen. Procurement, I think, is high on the list because it's an area that all of the integrity agencies tell us continually shows up risks and fraud and corruption. So that's well on our list. I think we might find this year that contaminated landfill management gets a little bit of airplay at the Audit and Risk Committee because we've got some internal audit work happening there soon. Suffice to say that the work that we've had, the reports that we've seen tell us that this is a well-controlled area. So I'm not suggesting to you that you should be concerned, just that it's always an area of interest for Brimbank. It's always on the risk radar. So, you know, I think it's important that we make sure it doesn't drop off. We'll continue to watch Brimbank's response to the sexual harassment review by Vago, but frankly, most councils, including Brimbank, are really working hard on this because they've got other people and cultural issues they're dealing with and wanting to progress around gender equality, diversity, etc. And I think this is just another element of that, albeit a very important one. And look, I think that's it. I don't really think I need to say more, Madam Mayor, but I'd be happy to take any questions if you wish, if there's time.
Thank you, Manjab. I don't think we're going to have a time for questions, but
Okay.
thank you on this report. So
Okay.
we're going to thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Good luck with your
Thank
meeting.
you. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. We'll now move to report 12.1 governance report, September 2021 with Mr. Dan Hogan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The governance report is a standing item within the monthly council meeting agenda. It is predominantly a summary of recent governance and operational activity written in compliance with the Local Government Act of 1989 and 2020. Councillors, in reference to attachment 5, the live streaming of council meetings policy, to correct an error within the document and for the removal of any doubt, meeting recordings will be retained on council's website for no less than 5 years. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions for the director? I can't see councillors because, thank you. Are there any questions on this report? Do I have a mover of this report? Councillor Nguyen?
Madam Mayor, I would like to move the report as the business papers.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to second this officer's report.
Thank you, Councillor Lancashire. Councillor Nguyen, would you like to speak to this report?
Yes, please. Thank you. As co-portfolio councillor with Councillor Lancashire for the Brimbank Innovation Portfolio, which includes governance and probity, I would like to highlight the importance of the monthly governance report to council. The report demonstrates that by following good governance principles and providing ongoing transparency, we give reassurance to our community and make Brimbank stronger. This has never been more important than now as we all respond to and recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. This month's governance report includes regular items such as delegations, records of informal meetings, and MP meetings. This month also includes an update on the Sunshine Town Centre Partnership Group membership and the outcomes of the COVID-19 Brimbank Business Recovery Grants Program. Between August and December 2020, Council awarded 63 grants under the COVID-19 Brimbank Business Recovery Grants Program for a total of $300,000. I'm pleased to note that a budget allocation is proposed for the 2021/2022 financial year to continue the program for a further 12 months. Lastly, this month's report proposes adjusted fees and charges for permits issued to local businesses. Council provided fee waivers in the last financial year as a part of the COVID response and recovery strategy, but this was not carried over to the current financial year. These new fee reductions and waivers would assist businesses whose trading continues to be impacted by the pandemic and associated restrictions. I commend the report to the council.
Thank you, Councillor Nguyen. Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak to this report?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report contains details of a massive amount of work that the councillors and council staff are involved in. And I think if we all went through the various items that we were involved in here, the meeting would be almost doubled in time. However, I feel that there is one particular meeting that I've been involved in for a number of years now, the Metropolitan Local Government Waste Forum. Brimbank Council had a notice of motion into that forum, which is very important. And it's that we request the Metro Waste Recovery Group Board write to the Minister for Energy, seek urgent intervention by the Minister to ensure that Metro Waste receives the required support and resources funding from the state government to immediately commence an advanced waste processing facility procurement process for councils in the northwest of metropolitan Melbourne, based on learnings from the collective procurement process currently underway in the southeast of metropolitan Melbourne. And the indication of just how significant this is to the not just Brimbank, but to the west of Melbourne, is that in terms of the circular economy, the southeast councils are getting a total waste recycling plant. And this is, there has been a proposal to step back from this option to establish a similar plant in the northwest. Now, the implications for us might well be that we end up having to burn our waste, putting thousands of tons of carbon dioxide and other gases into the atmosphere. And ultimately, as we approach 2050, we may well end up having carbon taxes added to this process. Dreadful result, not in accordance with the circular economy.
1 minute left.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And not a very good environmental result at all. So this council has been very active in putting this notice of motion. It was put to the board, to the Metro Waste Group, and all except one, it was unanimously adopted by the group. So I was very pleased with that result. But that is just one example of the vast array of things councillors on this council are involved in. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lancashire. Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to this report or to this motion? I put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. I declare this motion carried. Going to go to 12.2, Planning Activity Update and Delegated Decisions, August 2021 with Mr. Kelvin Walsh. Thank you, Mr. Kelvin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to report to Council on the status of planning permit applications and trends in planning approvals in Brimbank and decisions made under delegated authority during August 2021 regarding planning applications and other matters. The officer recommendation is for Council to note the report, including the activity and decisions that are included at attachment 1. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, councillors. Are there any questions for the director? Do I have a mover? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the officer's recommendation.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kerr.
I'd like to second the motion as per the business papers. Thank you.
Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, thank you. Briefly, Madam Mayor, it is certainly noted in the statistics that are provided that there has been a drop in the value of planning applications. The significance of this is that within the development process, planning applications are often one of the first things that are developed in terms of a process. And once you get your planning permit, you then get your building permit, you then get your finance and construct. So it is an early warning of good or bad tidings in the economy, of particular interest to those with financial or economic interests. And I think given that the construction industry has just been shut down for 2 weeks, this is dreadful news for those working in that area and shows the volatility of those industries. So something to watch closely. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lancashire. Councillor Kerr, would you like to speak to this motion?
No, thanks, Madam Mayor.
Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to this motion? I'll put this motion to vote then. All in favour, please raise your hands. I declare this motion carried. I'm going to go to 12.3, a local job for local people, draft program with Mr. Kelvin Walsh. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider adoption of the final draft Local Jobs for Local People program and report. Again, officers recommend that Council adopts the report and program as detailed at attachment 1, and also writes to the stakeholders that were consulted in preparation of the report and program and thanking them for their involvement. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions for the Director? Do I have a mover of this motion? Councillor Takos?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I move the motion as per business, officer recommendation as per business papers. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Boer?
I second the motion as per business papers.
Thank you. Councillor Takos, would you like to speak to this motion?
Just a few words, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to say that we currently do have a 20% deficit in jobs, which translates to roughly 13,500 jobs that we need. However, the good news with the population growth is the new infrastructure projects that are ahead of us, which include, of course, the MAL, the Airport Rail Link. There is an opportunity to leverage off that and the readiness and to actually close the gap of that deficit with 33,000 possible new jobs and opportunities. So the forecast is for high potential in construction, mining, labourers, distribution and production managers, mobile plant managers, engineering professionals, building and engineering technicians, as well as health and aged care as our demographic ages. There is a drive to employ more local people, which our council supports wholeheartedly with this local jobs, local people initiative. I fully endorse this fantastic report and program. Our community also needs to leverage off the tremendous knowledge of our diverse, skilled called community who bring a tremendous knowledge base and skills from around the world. It is our diversity that makes it great. I know this council is adopting this in its own employment vision, so we practice what we preach. This is a great report and it strengthens employment for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Takos. Councillor Bork, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, I do, Madam Mayor. Great to see this report coming to Council. Brimbank is a disadvantaged municipality with an unemployment rate between 3 to 5% greater than the Victorian and Melbourne metropolitan region average. The situation got worse due to COVID-19. In addition, businesses in Brimbank tend to employ people from outside, while at least 68% of the residents in Brimbank leave the municipality every day for work. This trend clearly demonstrates that there is a disconnect between demand and supply in the labour market. Accordingly, Brimbank Council felt the need to take a big dive into research and analysis. Brimbank has future employment growth opportunities. As such, it was important to identify the barriers and develop effective employment programs that are aimed to close the gap between the demands and supply for local jobs. And this is what this research and framework for action sought to do. This framework is instrumental in enhancing local jobs for local people. It is a great initiative, and I want to congratulate everyone involved. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bourke. Would anyone else like to speak to this motion, councillors? Yes, Councillor Brampton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When I first got elected, one of the first things on my mind was how do we get more jobs going? Because that was really important to me. And then, of course, I learned that council can't do a lot to just create jobs. But what this report is, it identifies ways that we can influence the ways that we connect people who are looking for work locally to employers who want to be employing local people. So this report has found ways that we can support it and in any way that we can. And so it's a great report. Thank you to everyone who put it together.
Thank you, Councillor Brampton. Councillor Nguyen.
Thank you. Likewise, I was motivated to run for council because of the pandemic affecting the future of young people, especially youth unemployment. And even before the pandemic, like Brimbank already had really high levels of unemployment. And I think a report like the local jobs for local people is something that we needed for a very long time. And I'm glad that we've identified the gaps that we need to address. And over 42 organizations acknowledge that council has a role to play in job procurement. And, you know, there's 4 pillars to the strategy. Number 1 is strengthening employment networks. Number 2 is supporting education and training networks, so getting people job ready and enhancing the public realm and support activation, so making Brimbank more attractive to business, jobs, and customers, and also promoting local procurement. So, you know, we're supporting the local economy. So, yeah, I'm really glad to have support. Thank you for the staff for preparing this together and looking forward to drive more employment in Brimbank in the future. Thanks.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to speak to this report, councillors? Then we'll put this report to vote, or this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. I declare this motion carried. I'm going to go to 12.4. Sunshine Secondary College Heritage Building with Mr. Calvin Walsh. Thank you.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to know correspondence that we've sent to the State Government about the potential demolition of heritage buildings at 111 and 129 Derby Road in Sunshine, proposed by the Department of Education and Training. Also to note recommendations that have been made by the Heritage Advisory Committee when considering this issue, and that Council has recently nominated the buildings to the Heritage Victoria for inclusion on the Heritage Register, and also to endorse continued advocacy regarding the heritage values of these buildings. Officers recommend that Council notes the range of actions undertaken, endorses ongoing advocacy, and also advises the Victorian School Building Authority that Heritage Victoria has actually accepted Brimbank's submission. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions for the Director? Is there a mover of this motion? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to move the officer's recommendation in the business papers. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councillor David, you want to? Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The Department of Education and Training has posted advance notice of demolition of the former Sunshine secondary sites and the 2 buildings there, or the buildings there. The sites are within 2 heritage overlays, respectively, and are at risk of demolition as the Minister for Education is not required to comply with the planning scheme. And this is the really difficult part, that while they're in our heritage overlays, the buildings are significant, but they are exempt as the Minister for Education is exempt from our planning scheme. On the 6th of September, Council lodged nominations to Heritage Victoria for the Sunshine Technical School Building and the Sunshine Girls Technical School Building to be listed on the Victorian Heritage Register. It is proposed that Council continues to advocate to state government ministers, local government members, relevant state government departments and agencies, the community and heritage organisations about the importance of retaining and protecting the heritage buildings on site. As Chair of Council's Heritage Advisory Committee, the committee certainly strongly supported these actions being taken in review of the matter. And it was interesting that on that Heritage Committee, and since then, the amount of interesting heritage information that has come out about these rather unique buildings and their value to the community was quite impressive. So we're in a difficult situation here, and advocacy and these letters and the action being taken by Council, I think, are paramount in trying to save these buildings. So I would certainly recommend the officer advice to my fellow councillors. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor David, would you like to speak to this report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, and I think Councillor Lancashire covered a lot, but look, when this announcement by the Department of Education and Training that they issue an advance tender notice for the demolition of the buildings at Derby Road, the former technical schools, wasn't very well received. These buildings to me are still very sound, and I think we should keep them for future directions used by communities. And those buildings hold historical significance for Sunshine. A lot of former students, Madam Mayor, after they have seen this issue in the media, they start calling people, parliamentarians and everything. And I had quite a number of calls myself. And one of them, he said to me, Sam, he says, my father was a teacher there for a long time, and I was a student thereafter. And this is a bit of a history and an excellent building. And it's right in the middle of a town. And it'd be a sorry thing to see them demolished. And I believe we should try all we can to try and save those buildings. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor David. Councillor Tarkus, would you, yep.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to give people a bit of a background. Sunshine Technical School opened in 1913 on the corner of Graham Street and Derby Road on land donated by H.V. Mackay. The school was established to train apprentices from the nearby Harvester Works factory owned by Mackay. It was the first school of its type ever in Victoria and led to the establishment of others across Melbourne. A new building for girls was opened on Derby Road in 1937, making Sunshine Tech a co-ed school. This girls' technical college was also a first of its kind. A major restructure of the schools in the inner west suburbs district occurred at the end of 1991 when 6 schools were amalgamated to form Sunshine College. Graham Street became the senior VCE campus for years 11 and 12, with the other 3 becoming junior campuses. This arrangement lasted to 2020 when new buildings on Lachlan Road, former Sunshine West High, and Northumberland Road, former Sunshine North Tech, were opened. The Graham Street campus closed at the end of the year. The innovative and pioneering efforts to establish these boys and girls technical schools and their operation for over a century provided a clear backdrop to the heritage values of this site. Brimbank City Council thankfully has placed heritage overlays on the former Sunshine Tech School buildings, which will now help guide future use of the site. The VCBA, Victorian School Buildings Authority, despite only closing the school in 2020, now claims vandalism and squatting warrant the heritage buildings demolition. This has to stop. Where was the ongoing maintenance and heritage of these buildings? Where was the site security? And I just ask councillors, imagine such an order was made on Robertson's Cottage. This council has a proud record of protecting heritage. Our heritage talks to who we are as a community. It also gives the strong industrial
1 minute left
of our community as well. So we have to draw the line in the sand at Sunshine Technical College and forevermore to defend every one of our precious heritage assets. I strongly support the officer's recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Borg.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would also like to echo what has already been said. It is paramount to protect Brimbank's heritage. Both schools were instrumental in giving rise to technical education in the western suburbs of Melbourne. They have also an important association with HV Mackay and the Sunshine Harvester Works. I would like to commend the quick action taken by the Council's Heritage Advisory Committee and the subsequent recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I strongly support these recommendations. As Councillor Lancashire pointed out, the Minister of Education and Minister of Planning can overwrite Lesson 2, the heritage overlaid. It's vitally important that we continue advocating and write for this. At the moment, we need clear information and clear intent from the government, what they intend to do with Lesson 2, the site. At the moment, we're getting mixed messages and laptop information, so we need to advocate and strongly continue to advocate regarding the heritage listed at 129 Derby Street and 111 Derby Street, Sunshine. And we continue to advocate and get information what's going on. Furthermore, there's some misinformation or miscommunication between Victorian School or Building Authority regarding the heritage of Victoria and the nomination of the buildings. It's clearly that we need to write to them and inform them what's going on, or and confirm that these buildings are heritage listed. So I surely support the advocating, and we must continue to do so to know what the government's intent is Lesson 2 the site. At the moment, we're getting information Lesson 2 what is going to be green space, and they're giving information Lesson 2 due to damage to the building. So we need to know what's information they'll clearly what information they'll intend to do with the buildings. And I fully support the officer's recommendation to write all this information. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, would anyone else like? Yes, Councillor Nguyen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just simply like to bring to the attention of listeners and watchers of the meeting tonight that the committee has raised a petition to oppose the demolition of the sites in Sunshine. It's change.org/save Sunshine Technical College. It's a petition to save the heritage buildings, and as of this moment, 324 people have declared their opposition to the demolition of the sites. So, yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? Then we'll put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. I declare this motion carried. I'm going to go to 12.5, Amendment C216, Sunshine and St Albans Park overlays. Mr. Kelvin Walsh, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider endorsing the draft parking plans for St Albans and Sunshine, and consider seeking authorisation from the Minister for Planning to prepare and exhibit Brimbank Planning Scheme Amendment C216 to apply the parking overlay to land within Sunshine and St Albans activity centres. Officers recommend that Council endorse the parking plans, endorse the proposed planning scheme amendment C216, and seek authorisation from the Minister for Planning to prepare and exhibit the amendment as per attachments 1 through to 10, and delegates to me endorsement of any changes required to be made as part of any conditional authorisation of the amendment, and also receives a further report outlining all submissions received in relation to the proposed amendment. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions for the Director? Do I have a mover of this motion? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I would like to move the officer's recommendation as in the notice papers. Thank you.
Do I have a second of this motion? Councillor Borg.
I'll second this motion as per business papers.
Thank you. Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Parking has been something that this council has been working on for quite some time, years. And the development of parking strategies for Sunshine and St Albans are very important. Part of that work also involves a planning scheme amendment. Now, the two are dealing with different elements of it. Parking is of a premium in both locations. However, I think for those that do visit both locations, it would be recognised that St Albans is extremely difficult. The parking plans are necessary to make the most of the parking opportunities there, and the amendments, however, are to deal with new development. And this is the important aspect of this, as new developments where planning permits are required. Now, it is not possible to have a situation where a new development solves all the problems, existing parking problems of an area. It really must concentrate on dealing with its own parking requirements as needed as part of that development. And we certainly do want to see encouragement for development, redevelopment in St Albans and Sunshine as part of our economic development strategy. And not so strongly stated in this, but I'll put my own spin on it. And that is that when you have a parking strategy like this in the planning scheme, it does add weight to the criteria that is being set down, and doesn't necessarily make it VCAT proof, but certainly gives us a lot of weight because of the large strategic basis to that at VCAT. So our decisions will be based on sound research and strategic work, and are more likely to be held up in the planning process and at VCAT to the benefit of those who visit those centres and want to park. So it's an extremely complex, detailed work, and I certainly compliment the officers on the amount of work that has had to go into this project over a long time. And I would recommend this report to my fellow councillors. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Bourke, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just briefly to point out that a lot of considerations have been taken in developing this draft and the proposed amendment. A key component of this report is the reduction of car parking provision rates. The need to encourage residents to reduce reliance on private cars and increase the use of more sustainable transport modes has been identified. I remember a few years ago attending a conference, and one of the speakers, in addressing issues relating to car parking, made an analogy and said, "You don't help an obese person by enlarging the belt." And I think that is saying a lot. I'm sure that the proposed amendment will generate a great deal of interest among the community. I am very much looking forward to these submissions. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I ask other councillors if they want to speak to this motion, I just want to check sound of Councillor David and Councillor Kerr. Councillor Kerr? Yep, yes. Great. Just we have to check the sound. I've been advised by governance. Councillor David?
Thank you.
Can you hear us? Thank you. Thank you. Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to this motion? I'll put this motion then to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. I declare this motion carried. 12.6 is Climate Emergency Annual Report. Mr. Kelvin Walsh, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm delighted to present to Council the first annual report card related to the Brimbank Climate Emergency Plan that details the actions we've taken in relation to the climate emergency plan in the first year, 2020 to 2021. Officers recommend that Council endorse the Brimbank Climate Emergency Report Card, which is shown and presented to Council at attachment 1. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions for the Director? Do I have a mover of this motion? Councillor Papalia?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move the motion as per the business papers.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Brenton?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I second the motion.
Councillor Papalia, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is our first annual report card for the Climate Emergency Plan, and it really does demonstrate some major progress in the first year of execution. As you all know, our council are committed to achieving net zero emissions, not only for our council operations, but for our whole municipality. And I'm sure you'll all agree that that's a pretty big job ahead of us. As the Portfolio Councillor for Sustainable Brimbank, I just wanted to highlight a few of the key achievements. Firstly, and of national significance, was funding of $1.5 million from ARENA for substantial electrification of Brimbank Aquatic and Wellness Hub. Now, this project represents a significant milestone in the advancement of all electric aquatic centres and also buildings more generally. We also saw, so there's a couple of things here. We also saw the establishment and commencement of Young Environmental Leaders Program. This one we've spoken about a few times, but it does mark a big step forward for us, and that's the VECO Power Purchase Agreement, providing 100% renewable electricity for council for the next 10 years. We saw a project that was put together in collaboration with Council Alliance for a Sustainable Built Environment. And that project is for us to start to consider the next phase of improvements to the Victorian planning system, which are needed to enable all electric precincts and buildings. The Brimbank Oasis concept of cool and green parks that hit its strides with Dempster Park Oasis project, which also attracted $1.5 million in funding from the Victorian government. And the Sunvale Community Park winning 3 industry awards. Another highlight was some of the work done with the traders in St Albans and Sunshine to understand some of the waste management issues so that we can work with them to help improve that. Now, there's also a massive $31.1 million allocated for FY 21-22. And that's focused on investing in key sustainability initiatives that support our community today while building a more sustainable Brimbank for our future. So I would encourage those interested to check out our website and some of the sustainable projects that we're working on. I am super proud of everyone involved, and a big thank you. And yeah, I commend this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Branton, would you like to speak to this motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to say that I'm really looking forward to sharing this with the community and seeing what feedback we can get from them, because I think it's really good and impressive, and I'm very proud to just be involved in it. The questions that I've asked around the lighting switches, I asked if we could switch to nocturnal lighting as we change the street lights, and they said that we might not be able to, but that they had already considered it before I asked. And so the officers that are doing the work seem to it really care, and they're doing a really good job of it. So I'm really glad to just be able to ask questions, and someone's already thought of it. That's the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just briefly, and congratulate Councillor Papalia on her work in this committee. It is something that clearly is of interest to all the councillors. I think once we find ourselves moving out of COVID, I think the hot topic in the media will be the environment. So that's a dead cert as far as I'm concerned. And it looks like we are moving towards being carbon neutral as a council by around 2030 and as a municipality by around 2040. And I think this sets an incredible example for the national government to maybe start to look at setting a policy for 2050. If I could be a little cheeky there. Look, I think we're doing incredibly well, more to do, but the success we've had so far in doing this has been, as Councillor Brandon was saying, very, very satisfying indeed. Thank you very much. And I would also recommend this report to my fellow councillors.
Would anyone else like to speak to this motion, Councillor? Councillor Borg?
I just want to again say that this report card demonstrates how far we have come since the Brimbank Climate Emergency Plan was adopted by Council in 2020. And I would also like to commend all the hard work involved in the implementation of these actions and thank all the staff involved. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Anyone else would like to speak to this report, councillors? No? Okay, we can then put it to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. I declare this motion carried. We're going to go to 12.7, which is Financial Statement 2020 to 2021 and Performance Statement 2020-2021 with Mr. Andrew Brown. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider in principle approval of the financial statements 2020-2021 and performance statement 2020-2021 prior to forwarding the statements to the Victorian Auditor General. It is also to nominate and authorise 2 councillors to certify the statements. The financial statements and performance statement have been audited by the Victorian Auditor General's Office and reviewed by Council's Audit and Risk Committee. The Audit and Risk Committee have recommended that the Council approve in principle the financial statements and performance statements. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions for the Director? Do I have a mover of this motion? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to move the officer's recommendation in the notice paper and include, if I believe is correct, the 2 councillors, Councillor Maria Kerr and Councillor Sam David, to be the 2 councillors on that committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kerr.
Yes, thank you. I move the report as per the business papers.
You second it, yeah?
And I second it, yeah.
Yeah. Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. As co-portfolio councillor with Councillor Nguyen for Brimbank Innovation, which includes financial sustainability, I am pleased to speak to the financial statements 2020, 2021 and performance statement 2020-2021. I would like to acknowledge and thank all the council officers who have contributed to this report. The report shows our financial performance, ensuring the delivery of services and programs that support our diverse community and make Brimbank stronger. First, the operating result for the financial year ending 30th of June 2021 is a surplus of $24.66 million against a budgeted surplus of $0.89 million. The results of Council's risk assessment for financial sustainability places Council's overall financial sustainability in the low risk category. The performance statement contains 28 prescribed indicators and measures, including 10 for service performance and 11 for financial performance, and 7 for sustainable capacity. The report highlights financial responsibility and provides confidence to our community. I think there's a lot to be said for this council that's been able to achieve this type of result, to be undertaking a project of significance, such as the rebuilding of the St Albans Leisure Centre, to have to deal with the COVID difficulties that we've had over these last couple of years and the massive changes that have been wrought by that, and still come out with this sort of financial result says a lot for Brimbank Council. I commend this report to Council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, please. The Audit and Risk Committee and its members should be commended for all their hard work throughout the year. They've been meticulous and thorough in their review of financial and risk matters. They have monitored and followed through on all internal and external audit recommendations. Officers have also provided very detailed and transparent reports to assist with this process. It's been an honour and a great learning experience to be part of this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Councillor David.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just briefly to say that I'd like to commend the Director, Shane Ma, and of course, Andrew Bray, for putting such an extremely good financial report before us tonight. I'd like to say and thank Councillor Lancashire for nominating myself and Councillor Kerr on that committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to this motion, councillors? I put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. I declare this motion carried. We'll go to 12.8, Quarterly Portfolios Report, May, July 2021 with Mr. Dan Hogan. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, this report is for noting only. The report details the number of portfolio meetings held during May, June and July of this year. For the purposes of public transparency, the report also lists the items considered within each respective portfolio. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions for the Director? Do I have a mover of this motion? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I would like to recommend the officer's recommendation in the business papers. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Borg.
I'll second the motion as per business papers.
Thank you. Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Madam Mayor. As Portfolio Councillor for Brimbank Innovation, along with Councillor Nguyen, this portfolio includes governance. I would like to acknowledge all the councillors who have embraced the portfolio system, which was extended from 10 to 11 portfolios at the start of this year. Portfolios aim to provide for better understanding and visibility of issues, efficiency and accountability for implementation of the council plan and its actions, and additionally enable councillors to become knowledge champions on portfolio issues. A wide range of issues from COVID-19 response and recovery activity, climate change strategy, optimised waste collection initiative, advocacy priorities, aged care, arts and culture, maternal and child health, the Community Connect program, Westgate Tunnel impacts, creating better streets and communication campaigns, and this just names a few, have been discussed at portfolios in the last few months. During the reporting period, 19 portfolio meetings were held, 117 presentations and updates were delivered to councillors. Council should be proud of its officers who have presented at these portfolios. They are committed knowledge experts who have helped councillors understand many complex and varied issues through the portfolio system. I commend this report to Council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Borg.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As the people portfolio, I would like to comment about some highlights, including strengthening communities. A lot of work is being done in this area, including the COVID response, the Disability Action Plan, which is being reviewed and co-designed, and Community Connector Program. With regards to youth, there is a lot of focus on the subgroup of the population through the Brimbank Youth Council, which has a new diverse membership. The Resilient Youth Survey, which involved 5,000 students from primary and secondary school students. An action group of community representatives to oversee $650,000 of funds as related to community safety initiatives, potential focus on young people. Also, the service access for early years continue to improve with the new role of a called kindergarten outreach officer. These are just some of the highlights for this quarter report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, would anyone else? Yes, Councillor Takos.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to give a few updates on my COVID response and recovery portfolio. Just like to say that vaccination hubs are up and running in Brimbank. Our drivers are also collecting vulnerable people to get them to get the jab, which, as we know, and also with taxi vouchers, as we know, mobility is a big issue for a lot of our community. To get to the vaccination hub could be a barrier. Over 500 community members are receiving ongoing support via welfare and support phone calls from our tremendous little call centre. The community register, which continues to play a big part in keeping our community members safe and linked to others through the Volunteer Community Connect program. The impacts of the social isolation cannot be underestimated in this particular pandemic. It has been well documented, and the benefits of this program for both not just the volunteers and the recipients can never be underestimated. COVID disruptions and our 10-kilometre limit has forced again residents to live quite locally, resulting in increased utilisation and appreciation of council parks and facilities and local businesses as well. During COVID, council's shopping strip activation programs have brought people out and connecting, and we continue to support our local traders now more than ever. As this particular pandemic is dragging on, it is hurting our businesses so much more. So we are really stressing the importance of getting behind our local businesses whenever we can. Visits to neighbourhood houses by young people continue to increase. Library to your door services deliveries continue to increase as well, which is a great initiative. And just to give you an example of what libraries innovation they're doing is, if you've got something to print and you don't have access on a computer, you can phone the libraries and they can print it out for you, and you can do a contactless pickup of that document, because a lot of people don't have scanning, they don't have printing at home. So our libraries are working out new and innovative ways to still help the community who may not have access to digital technology. So our customer service support team are also doing a great job working from home and helping people seeking support. I'd just like to give a big thanks to the people that continue to help our community, Salvation Army, Tin Shed and other cultural groups that continue to give food parcels to the community, because a lot of people are hungry and have lost jobs and their basic needs need to be met. So just a big thank you to everyone that's chipping in to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Takos. Would anyone else like to speak to this motion? I'll put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. I declare this motion carried. We're going to go now to the 12.9, which is Be Kind Online Anti-Cyberbullying campaign. So I'm going to speak on it. I'm pleased to speak about Council's Be Kind online initiative aimed at promoting respectful online decisions. Be Kind Online is a simple campaign, but with a big message. Kindness matters, and we all have unique experience and perspective to share. Be Kind Online is about creating safe digital spaces where we can share our opinions without being bullied or attacked. The campaign promotes conversations where everyone feels welcome, because having open and respectful discussions is how we can work together to solve problems and generate new ideas. As the Mayor of Brimbank, one of 8 female councillors, I have unfortunately experienced online bullying. This is something that some of my councillors have also experienced, and it's far too common for women in general. Research published on the federal government eSafe website is unsettling. A survey of 502 Australian women aged 18 to 55 in 2018 showed that 3 in 10 women have experienced online abuse or harassment. 37% who had experienced online abuse or harassment said that at least on one occasion made them feel that their physical safety was threatened. 40% of women who had experienced abuse or harassment on social media platform either stopped or limited their use of the platforms. 27% of these with experience of online abuse or harassment said that they had stopped posting content that expressed their opinion on certain issues. And 23% said that stopped sharing content that expressed opinion on certain issues. As a council, we rely on social media as one of our communication tools to deliver news and information and to include the Brimbank community in decision-making. Unfortunately, on Facebook and other social media channels, there are some people that dominate the conversation and attack others if they don't agree. This is not helpful, and so much more can be achieved when we are kind. I don't want online bullying to stop me from taking a leadership role in my council and community. I don't want to stop my fellow councillors, and I don't want to stop the young girls and women who may wish to follow in our footsteps. I encourage my fellow councillors and community members to join the Be Kind online campaign and stand up against cyberbullying. Thank you. Now we can go to report 12.9 with Mr. Dan Hogan. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have nothing further in the introduction of this report to add, councillors, other than that recommendation is for council to endorse the campaign for further promotion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, do you have any questions for the Director? Do I have a mover of this motion? Councillor Kerr?
Thank you. I'd like to move it as per the business papers. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Takos?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to second the officer recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. As the champion of the Proud portfolio, I'm delighted by this campaign. I'd like to thank council officers for devising this campaign. Social media can be unforgiving, especially as an elected councillor. I fully understand I've put myself into the public eye. However, abuse, hate speech, bullying, and unfounded accusations is never okay. Unfortunately, sometimes these insults and threats can really affect the victim and cause mental health issues. We just never know what battle the other person is facing. It is also a concern that many perpetrators hide behind fake profiles. I encourage respectful debate and often agree to disagree. I also fully support engaging with the community and am always happy to respond online or via the phone respectfully. However, I will not tolerate any unsavoury behaviour. So let's remember to be kind online and look out for each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cliff. Councillor Tarkos, would you like to speak to this report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for Councillor Kerr's fantastic introduction as well to a timely campaign, I believe. As our community grapples with the challenging and unfamiliar times of this pandemic, the use of social media has increased and has become basically a source of information and a way to find out what's going on, more so, and report issues, ask questions, and in some cases, vent frustrations more. We are all feeling it. We're having feelings of that frustration, of confusion, and sometimes despair and anger, and the whole spectrum in between. And that's quite normal. I use social media to connect and to try and inform and follow up questions. However, as a public figure, and more so in a local council, we are much closer to our community than any other government level. So we are far more accessible to the community, which is a positive, I must say. But the important thing is that we are always mutually respectful and kindness is always practiced. Councillors do not work out of an office with extensive administrative support. We are solo flyers pretty much the whole time, and we balance lives as well with some of us are carers and some of us work full time and are balancing several roles. So we may not always answer things on time, but we will follow things up. And I really just wanted to state that we are quite resourceful in what we do and try and keep the costs as minimal as possible, but to return questions to our residents as quickly as possible. So this campaign for me, is kindness, showing kindness, compassion, understanding, and empathy, which are so important in these challenging times. This campaign is both timely and important, and getting the message across to everyone, not just through social media, but even face-to-face for everyday life. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tarkos. Would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Councillor Board.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The devastating effects of cyberbullying and other unkind behavior are very well known. The importance to be kind to others online cannot be emphasized highly enough. When we are kind to others, we are kind to ourselves. Conversely, when we are hurtful to others, we are hurting ourselves. It is important to cultivate a culture of kindness, understanding, and compassion within the context of digital communication. Constructive criticism is strongly encouraged, and it's okay to agree to disagree. Let us all join together in this campaign and be kind to one another when we are communicating with each other online and beyond.
Thank you, Councillor. Would anyone else like to speak to this motion, councillors? Councillor Lancashire and then Councillor Nguyen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Certainly, the bullying and poor behaviour that occurs on social media has become of an interest not just to local government but state government. A report of the inquiry into the impact of social media on Victoria's electoral administration and Victorian elections has just been released. The inquiry found that the Victorian government must take action to reduce the harms of social media on the electoral environment. While it found that social media offers a low-cost way for candidates, councillors to use their voice, it does make it easier for voters to access information. Social media in Victoria can centre around sensationalist material that provides a limited range of viewpoints, inaccurate representations of how communities feel. So certainly the state government is looking into these issues and its impact on local government and councillors. However, on a more personal note, I can certainly reiterate the comments made by others. I have seen far too much inappropriate bullying behaviour on social media. A lot of it is unacceptably misogynist and very upsetting. I certainly don't like it. It is upsetting. It's unnecessary. I like these things to be presenting ideas, having debate, having discussion. It certainly hasn't been a forum for those sort of things. It just becomes a very nasty environment with a very few people. And that's probably the thing, that there are just so many people out there, over 200,000 residents we have, many of them engaging responsibly in social media, pitching.
1 minute left.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Putting their pictures, their stories up and engaging with the community. However, a very small, nasty minority that are engaging in this sort of practice ruins it for everyone, and it certainly should be totally discouraged. So I certainly call on administrators to clamp down on this when they see it, and certainly I would encourage those people that are doing these sort of things to stop it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Nguyen.
I'd really like to commend the council on putting this e-card campaign together. And I would just like to share a personal experience. Like the statistic here is that, you know, about half of those who experience abuse online were aged 18 to 24. And unfortunately, I'm one of those people. Like someone said they doubted my Australianness because of what I look like. And I've had faced harassment online as well. And look, cyberbullying has horrible consequences. Like you just don't know how many comments add up. And look, it's the cause of at least 3 suicides per week in Australia for the youth. And across all ages, possibly up to 10 suicide deaths per week in Australia. And that was findings from the submission by the ACCC in 2019. And it also, like this behavior, it sends a message to young people out there, especially women as well, that if you voice your opinions, there is a likelihood that you're going to face misogynistic comments against you. And look, what example are we setting for young people? Because there's also adults who do not, they can't, it's like we need to be more respectful in how we engage our discussions online, and we need to respect each other's opinions, even though they're not the same. So yeah, I just think this is really important. Yeah, like cyberbullying, no matter how old you are, no matter what opinion you have, it's not on. You need to be respectful.
Anyone else wants to speak to this motion, councillors? Lou, you had your hand up before.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. So I'll just commend the team for putting this educational program together. I understand that most of the councillors here probably all have expressed some experience one way or another. Just want to reiterate to the community, this is not about the councils to what we experience. It's basically an education program to assist people using on the webs, using on the internet regarding the mechanism and behaviour, and hopefully we'll give information to user how to interact on the site, and given the opportunity that is a right to have freedom of speech and freedom to express their opinions without being criticised or being bullied on the site. So commend the officers and the staff to put this information educational program together to give people the education and information how to interact on the webs. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to this motion, councillors? We put this motion then to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. I declare this motion carried. I'm going to go to 12.10. Delegations review September 2021 with Mr. Dan Hogan. Thank you.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. Instruments of delegation are the legal mechanism in which statutory or regulatory powers are transferred between parties, which require update from time to time. The purpose of delegations is to allow the efficient operation of a council such that it can meet its day-to-day obligations and strategic objectives. One element of the recommendation before council tonight seeks that council consider delegating powers to council staff as listed within the S6 instrument of delegation found at attachment 1. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions for the Director? Do I have a mover of this motion? Councillor Borg?
I'll move the motion as per business papers.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Takos?
I second this officer recommendation. Thank you.
Councillor Borg, would you like to speak to this motion?
No, Madam Mayor, it's quite a straightforward report. Thank you.
Councillor Takos, would you like to speak to this motion?
No, Madam Mayor, noted. The report is noted, but not speaking to it. Thank you.
Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to this motion? I put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. I declare this motion carried. Can I go to 12.11, Transforming Brimbank, Let's Build It Better Together Advocacy Campaign. Before we go to the report, councillors, for many months, we have worked on a direct advocacy campaign to convince the federal and state governments to make sure the Melbourne Airport Rail delivers for our local community, not just for commuters. Recent state government announcement, including a new transport precinct community reference group to precinct master plan for Sunshine and Albion, are genuine reasons for optimism. Tonight, Council is asking to consider the second major stage of our advocacy in relation to Melbourne Airport Rail, the endorsement and launch of community campaign, Transforming Brimbank, Let's Build It Better Together. Reaching out to our community to leverage the existing funding and commitments of the Melbourne Airport Rail project, the campaign amplifies our call for major additional investment in Sunshine and Albion and maintains our existing community petition as the call to action. The campaign also calls for a community offset package based on existing state government programs, such as the 68 million community sports and recreation package connected to the North East Link project and the 10 million Westgate Neighbourhood Fund attached to the Westgate Tunnel project. Councillors, this community campaign is an extension of all the work and direct advocacy to date. The next logical step in a long campaigning to establish Sunshine as the capital of Melbourne's West, not as turnstile for commuters. Thank you. Now we can go to the report with Mr. Dan Hogan. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Nothing further to add to the report and the attachments before council. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions for the Director? Do I have a mover of this motion? Councillor Takos?
Madam Mayor, I move the officer recommendation as per business papers.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Liu?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll second.
Councillor Takos, would you like to speak to this motion?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just a few words. This campaign is the next iteration of the Transform Brimbank campaign, which started in our last term and was launched at Parliament House by Council. This campaign is about leveraging funding and commitments of the MAL, of the Melbourne Airport Rail Link, across the 4 critical priorities, which is the Sunshine Priority Precinct, the Sunshine Super Hub, the Albion Station, and the Albion Quarter and Sunrise. This is a call to action for our community to deliver and receive the full suite of what was promised by the state government, even if it is a staged process. We understand that it can't be delivered all at once, but we want the full suite of what was promised in full. And why do we want this? We want it because we want to maximise local community outcomes and not just see this as a transport project. We want to realise the full potential of the Sunshine Precinct to become an international, interstate and regional visitor and investment destination. Brimbank Community Offset Package to realise and recognise that Brimbank will experience the brunt of a decade of construction and disruption to our community. Establishment of a business, jobs, skills and procurement task force. Probably the most important linchpin in this campaign is so that our local community directly benefits via employment and training opportunities directly attributed to the Melbourne Airport Rail Link. We were talking about local jobs for local people. Well, this is the opportunity to really leverage off this particular campaign to transform Brimbank. I'm really excited and I'm thrilled to be part of the launch of this very important campaign to help transform our community, a community that is ready to shine and thrive and deserves nothing but the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Liu, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. As Councillor Tarkos mentioned, that's why we needed this advocacy lesson to what we need it for and what's its requirement and why it's important for us as our community. The next stage is how we're going to do it. And I just want to emphasise to the community that we as council had a strategy lesson to how we go about lesson to advocate for this precinct lesson to the airport railway links. And we deliberately set this stage. This is stage 2 of stage 1 as we've been processed. And I have been approached by various individuals and people from the community lesson to assist with their advocacy, community advocacy, and put various funds to assist with their campaign. I just want to let you know that we have a very dedicated advocacy team, led by the advocacy director, Dan Hogan. He's a point of contact if the community require assistance. He's a point of contact where we will assist, and he knows that we will assist all the community with what's required. So it's we do not want to go full ball lesson to various stages through the year. So as it is, which is actually planned how we go about this. So fully let the community know that we are up to stage 2 of the community, and this is where the fully community advocacy now. And this is where the community can get involved, and the point of contact is our director of advocacy. If you need any assistance or any ideas how we go about how we can assist your community to advocate besides the council's advocacy campaign as well. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Councillor David.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, indeed. If I go back to 2018, Madam Mayor, we got the best news that any councillor wants to listen to. The airport airlink. It was a fantastic news. But all of a sudden we got a different type of reports. And I plead by asking the government to try and deliver at least the proper Sunshine Super Hub. The station entries to provide direct, perhaps pedestrians experience, including the Hampshire Road and the city place. We need to connect the city again, Madam Mayor. The multiple ways to create across the railway corridor so we can have activation, accessible city for all of us. This has been, to me, at least a wishful thinking for a long, long time, entering council to try and connect the city, to try and make it livable again. And indeed, if that happens, I think the developments will come in, investments will come in, traders and other sort of investments where that's what this city needs, and it will happen. And I say again to the government, it's never too late to try and go back to the original reports. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Councillor Nguyen?
Thank you. I'd just like to also thank, the advocacy team, also Director Dan Hogan, and the agencies who have been involved with our advocacy for the Melbourne Airport Railway project. Like, if it was not for the involvement of Brimbank, I think we'll be seeing a different situation to what we have today. Like, I think a key thing to acknowledge here is that we're able to have representation from council and community members on the Sunshine Community Reference Transport Group. And by having a seat on the table, that will enable us to influence the outcomes for our future in the Sunshine and Albion areas. And look, we're still going to advocate to get the state government to reconsider the flyover. We will have that petition going, but we'll also be advocating for other things as well, such as the Brimbank Community Offset Package, to acknowledge the fact that we are going to be bearing the brunt of the build. It's going to be affecting our community. So yeah, also I'd like to thank the community for their support and interest on this matter as well, and their activism. So yeah, just looking forward to phase 2 of the campaign, and let's keep it going.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to talk to this motion, councillors? I put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. I declare this motion carried. Going to go to 12.12, Brimbank Bicycle Education Centre with Miss Lindley Dumble. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report is presented to Council in response to a notice of motion that was raised at the 18th of May 2021 Council meeting. Since the motion, Brimbank officers have met members of the Brimbank Bicycle Education Centre on site to discuss their ongoing operation of the centre and the impact of COVID-19. This report details Council's response to the points raised in the notice of motion. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Are there any questions for the Director? Do I have a mover? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to recommend the officer's recommendation as in the business paper. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Tarkos.
I'd like to second that recommendation as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak to this motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I would. And I'd like to start by thanking the Director, Lindley Dumble, for putting this report together. I think this is gives a lot of, I suppose, security to the bicycle education for its continued operation. Unlike other sporting groups that might have a large paid membership that they can draw on to help them with work around the clubs and things like that, the Bicycle Education Centre, which does an incredible job educating our young people about road laws and about bicycle use and getting them onto bikes. The Bicycle Education Centre does a fantastic job, but it's a group of about 8 people that do this. And the change that was proposed to get them to things like mow lawns and pay for waste collection, these changes would have made the bicycle education vulnerable to closure. And this would have been a dreadful loss to our community and particularly our children. The proposals involve, as I said, ground maintenance and collection of waste recyclables. As a result, the ground maintenance schedule of the lease will be amended for council to resume responsibility for cutting the grass. Council officers have recently worked with the Centre to introduce recycling bins at no cost, in addition to halving the waste bins at the Centre's request. To ensure consistency across all community leases, it is appropriate that all waste fees be removed from agreements in return for those community groups working with council to encourage increased recycling. It is estimated the total cost to council of waiving these fees across all community leases is around $2,500 annually. In relation to the bicycle education, it also involved installation of a bubble tap for drinking water for children. The tap had been provided by the Bicycle Education Centre, and also some planting trees, which is something that we are doing en masse across the municipality. And referring to estimates, the provision of an emergency side gate on the southern boundary as an alternate exit. Look, I would certainly like to say this has been very helpful in resolving these problems from a rather small group that does an absolutely amazing job for our children. So I'm very pleased to see this result and very pleased to support this recommendation to my fellow councillors. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Takos, would you like to speak to this motion?
Just a few words. I think Councillor Lancashire summarised it quite thoroughly. I think it's a small suite of things that they are asking, given that they are a completely volunteer organisation. But I think for me, the most important function of all is the education aspect. Cycling and getting kids to learn how to cycle and use cycling paths is something that should become a focus of this council. Getting kids walking and on cycling to increase their fitness, both physical and mental health fitness, is vital, but not just riding a bike, but learning how to safely ride a bike and interact in road situations and in pedestrian situations. We've learned through this pandemic that more people are taking up cycling, yet there is a lot of confusion always on Facebook about who's got right of way, on paths, on roads, who can ride on roads, who can ride on paths. The aspect of education is something that isn't, taught through schools, but we've got a very unique opportunity with a bicycle education where we can transmit that in a safe and accessible way. And the other thing that I really wanted to say is that they also do help kids on the spectrum. This is makes them quite inclusive, where they offer safety, a safe path where they can learn how to ride a bike, because all kids want to enjoy that sense of freedom of riding a bicycle, that riding a bicycle gives. And I think that if you go down there on any given day when they're running lessons, you see so many kids and just the parents there, learning to ride a bike in a very safe environment. But the other thing that I also want to say is that this particular facility offers a very COVID-safe facility for a number of functions. And recently, the last 2 years, the Saintside Bicycle Expo has been running their show there in January, which attracts hundreds of people from all over the state. And the good thing about this is it's big enough to accommodate an outdoor function where they can control the numbers of up to 500 people in a gated, safe environment, where they could have food trucks and they could have a show, and they had the race as well. So I think we really need to use this facility more as we move into the next phase of COVID safe, where people can have picnics, they can have other activities outdoors, where there is the option of also indoors as well, but it offers a real unique opportunity for people to run events there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Takos. Would anyone else like to speak to this motion, councillors? I put this motion to vote then. All in favour, please raise your hands. I declare this motion carried. I'm going to go to 12.3, Brimbank Aquatic and Wellness Centre project, September 2021, update with Mr. Neil Whiteside. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to receive an update on the Brimbank Aquatic and Wellness Centre project, including an update on the design and construction status, and also an update on the project budget and program. The project has progressed extensively over the last 3 months since the last report to Council, with design work essentially complete and the construction work progressing up until, unfortunately, the recent changes in the COVID-19 restrictions relating to the construction sector. It should be noted that the impact of these changes on the project will be reported to Council as part of the next status report once officers have further details. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, councillors. Are there any questions for the director? Do I have a mover of this motion? Councillor Nguyen.
Yes, I'd like to move the motion as per business papers.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Takis.
I'd like to second the recommendation as per.
Councillor Nguyen, would you like to speak to this motion?
Not really. Thank you. I just, great work on the progress of the centre. Oh.
Thank you. Councillor Takis, would you like to speak to this motion?
Just a few words, Madam Mayor. Notwithstanding the challenging times in major construction, this project seems to be humming along really well. There's a real sense of excitement and positivity as the construction of this much needed facility progresses over time. Every time we drive past it, there's a sense of real excitement for our community, seeing the slides and seeing the updates of all the different the smaller swim pool as well is a sign of the development of this amazing project, and also the opportunity that our council had to go and visit it to see just how big and impressive it's going to be. I can't express the excitement this community feels when they see the progress of this construction. It is indeed a positive perception that this council is completely committed in upgrading, in rebuilding and transforming our facilities into world-class, hallmarked by sustainability projects. I commend this report and update and look forward to the next update. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Takis. Would anyone else like to speak to this motion, councillors? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I would like to speak to it. The building is progressing really well. Of course, there is this little hiccup with the construction industry, but in the rare chance where people are able to drive past it and have a look, it's starting to look quite exciting. Feedback I'm getting from residents in the area is that they're getting excited about the project that's coming on. And a couple of things that I really feel I need to mention in terms of the Green Star certification. ADCO are required to deliver the facility to achieve a 5-star green design and built certification in accordance with the Green Building Council of Australia. ADCO have undertaken an assessment on the current Green Star credit point system status and advised that a 6-star Green Star certification remains achievable from the project. I just know that sounds good. Further information will be provided to council as ADCO continues its investigations into a possible 6-star certification. It was mentioned earlier in this council meeting about the funding. Council has welcomed the $1.5 million in Australian government funding towards the integrated renewable energy system at the centre under construction. The efficient building shell and high efficiency energy system is expected to deliver an energy reduction of up to 80% compared to other traditional aquatic centres. Shifting away from traditional gas boilers used to heat and cool water and air at other—
1 minute left.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At other aquatic centres to install an all-electric heat pump system. It will use 88,000 litres of hot water storage that acts like a big thermal battery and a 500 k's of solar panels. For those interested in those energy efficiency and sustainability and green things that are being done in this centre, as was mentioned, I think earlier by Councillor Papalia. This is really exciting stuff, that we have such an innovative centre being built in our municipality. I'm very excited by all of this, and I think the feedback I'm getting from everyone is they're excited too. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, does anyone else want to speak? Councillor Lou?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to continue what Councillor Legacy mentioned relation to the Wellbeing Centre. Due to COVID and the pandemics, it's understandable that our council has been fully focused on the COVID-19 recoveries, plus our advocacy campaign, less the super hubs and the Sunshine Airport Railway Link. I just want to re-emphasise to the community that this council hasn't forgot relation to the wellbeing and the fundings, the lack of funding that we're getting from the state and the federal government. And I have spoken to the Director of Advocacy. It is not forgotten, and we still will continue advocating for going funding for this the Wellbeing Centre. We're in from this council within this term. We will continue doing so once it's open, and continue to advocate for more funding. So I think you meant to add that.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to speak to this motion, councillors? Then we'll put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. I declare this motion carried. I'm going to go to 12.14, provision of ICT service, interleave contract 18/2516 extension with Mr. Andrew Bray. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to propose that we move, that this council moves and considers reports 1214 to 1218 in a block, with motions as per officer recommendations in these reports. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Councillor David, thank you. Does anyone want to speak to this motion?
No.
Put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. Thank you. Then we're going to move this motion as a block. All right, this motion is a block. Do I have a mover on this motion? Councillor Takos?
I move reports 1214 through to 1218. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconded?
Second.
Councillor David?
Thank you.
Councillor Takos, well, we're not going to talk because it's a block. So I put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. I declare this block of motion carried. Thank you. We're going to go now to item 30, which is notice of motion. There are 5 notices of motion for consideration. Councillors, I remind you that notice of motion must be moved as printed in the papers and it only is seconded. Can an amendment be moved? Do I have a... (13.1) Melbourne Airport Community Aviation Consultation Group. Notice of motion 29/21. Councillor Takos.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move the motion as per shared screen. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not going to read it out, but it's just in front of you there.
Thank you. Do I have a second of this motion? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I would like to second this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Takos, would you like to speak to this motion?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yes, I feel compelled to bring this notice of motion before the council. Increasingly, this community, and I feel very much aligned with the community on the sentiment, Melbourne Airport is not listening nor hearing the concerns that we have regarding airport plans and operations. The Melbourne Airport Community Aviation Consultation Group, known as CAG, is an important forum for community to provide feedback about the impact of Melbourne Airport operations and surrounding community, in particular, given that the Noise Abatement Committee no longer operates. We know that also the AMAC, or Australian Mayoral Aviation Council, was dissolved earlier this year, and I was co-elected onto that committee. Unfortunately, we understand that this will result in, that was dissolved, so that would result in the removal of the only councillor representative from that committee. So Councillor Medcraft from Hume City was the only elected community representative able to participate in CAG, and now his lone voice will also be silenced in forums. Councillors are key representatives of our community. We are well placed to engage with the respective communities and represent at CAG. The lack of councillor representation is, I believe, an oversight and complete misunderstanding of the role of councillors. Recently, we had a briefing from Melbourne Council. I was quite shocked and taken aback to be told that having a councillor representative of CAG on CAG would be politicising it. In fact, that's what our role is to represent our community's voice. CAG should include a councillor representative from all surrounding communities and municipalities. One councillor from only one municipality was never enough in terms of the impact of Melbourne Airport on surrounding communities, which we know extends beyond only one municipality. Given that CAG is no longer an open forum, it is increasingly important that our communities are properly represented at the CAG through the expansion of its membership to include councillors. I believe this should be in addition to the community representatives that are already present on CAG. And Madam Mayor, I've already had support from other councils around with this motion being viewed that they support being representatives on CAG. Greater representation is important forum that we can only be good for our communities. Given the impact the expansion of the proposed third runway will be on Brimbank, it's even more important that we have a voice on some kind of platform to represent our community's concerns. Greater community representation can only strengthen our voices in raising community concerns regarding the anticipated impacts of the proposed third runway. I therefore commend this notice of motion to my fellow councillors and hope that I can gain your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I certainly support and would echo the words of Councillor Tarkos in this matter. Look, it's when you look at the governance report and the involvement in councillors in a vast array of committees, external, internal, we truly are engaged right across representing our community. And going back 4 years, we have again and again consistently and unanimously put forward the point of view that we would like to have a councillor on the CAG committee. It really is unbelievable that we don't. The excuses as to why we haven't are unacceptable, and to have someone on there is an absolute no-brainer. And the type of things that are coming up by the airport, I really don't believe they have good advice. I don't believe they're thinking things through clearly. This proposed amendment relating to the Australian noise exposure forecast areas is just yet another example of the outrageous proposals that are coming forward from the airport. They are almost going to have to build their own planning team to manage the applications that would be coming through. And as a Brimbank councillor, can I say that every time someone gets annoyed, frustrated, having to deal with the costs of an application because of that control, we are most likely going to be unanimously supporting them against the airport. and it may be dozens, it may be hundreds of applications involved in this. And if they think they can simply quieten everything down by not having a councillor on CAG, and if they think they can quieten things down by controlling the payment scheme, thank you, Madam Mayor, then really they're heading towards a public community disaster. And if they had a councillor on there and were listening, we could avoid some absolutely dreadful mistakes that I see looming. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to this motion? I put this motion to vote then. All in favour, please raise your hands. I declare this motion carried. We'll go to item 13.2, calling on Parliament to respond to current situation in Afghanistan. Notice of motion 13/21. Councillor Bork, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to move the motion that Council joins the 300 plus organizations, businesses and community groups who have signed a letter written by the Refugee Council of Australia urging immediate action from Prime Minister Scott Morrison and all federal members of Parliament and senators regarding the current situation in Afghanistan, and to join the Mayors Migration Council and their Global Mayors Statement to prepare to welcome Afghan refugees into their cities.
Thank you. Do I have a second of this motion? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to second Councillor Borg's notice of motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Borg, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Due to the resurgence of the Taliban and departure of international forces from Afghanistan, in the past month alone, 300,000 Afghans have fled their homes in search of safety. This contingency of refugees join over 6 million Afghans who have been displaced due to the conflict over the past decade. The events are particularly distressing to members of Australia's Afghan diaspora who are hearing directly from family members and friends about the terrible violence within the country. There are already many reports of executions and forced marriages of young women and girls. According to the 2016 census, the Brimbank municipality is home to the 5th largest community of Afghans. I believe that Council has a responsibility on behalf of its culturally diverse communities to advocate to the federal government to take urgent action as follows. I would like to kindly ask my fellow councillors to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I would like to strongly support the notice of motion being put forward by Councillor Borg. Her role in supporting refugees in Brimbank is well known. The role of this council in supporting refugees is also well known. And I find, like all of us, the shocking scenes that we've seen in the media with the collapse of the government and the Taliban taking control and the reports coming out has been really upsetting and I think disappointing to all of us. And we can understand how with that, again, I use that word misogynist behaviour that's going on. We can understand how people would want to flee this situation. There are obviously groups who are supporting the government who now find themselves in life-threatening situations, and women who find themselves being just passed on as wives and treated appallingly is something that is dreadful and shocking to see. So I would certainly like to support Councillor Borg's motion and would certainly recommend it to the rest of Council. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Councillor Nguyen and then Councillor Lou.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to say, as a daughter of Vietnamese refugees, I'd like to extend, my sense of solidarity for the Afghanis who are trying to escape the situation in Afghanistan. To share a personal story, the scene of seeing all these people flock to the airport in fear of their lives, it's like, my mom called me the other day. That actually triggered her. She's like, Jasmine, did you know that our family tried to go to the airport to escape Vietnam because of what was happening? And, it puts me in the mindset wow, what was the rest of the world doing, when they were seeing these events take place? And now that I'm, privileged to be in a position of being a councillor and council, aside from donating, what else can local council do to help the situation in Afghanistan and other refugee countries? And, I'd like to thank Councillor Borg for raising this motion up because, unfortunately, to achieve substantial change, such as intaking war refugees, that's a federal level of decision making. But I think at the very least, what we can do as a local council is to advocate for the government to take a stronger stance on this and actually help the urgent situation in Afghanistan. And looking into statistics here, although we are behind the city of Casey and Greater Dandenong, Brimbank's actually one of the top 5 LGAs in Victoria with a Afghani population. So yeah, and I think, as we all acknowledged here, Brimbank has a strong multicultural community, many of which who come from refugee migrant backgrounds. So yeah, thank you, Councillor Borg, for raising this motion. And I think, it's the least that we can do as a local council.
Thank you. Councillor Lou.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As a councillor, I don't believe in raising international state politics. However, as a boat refugee myself, and now has seen what the American administration has done in a political way, which disregard completely the people of Afghanistan, as repeating history as they've done in the past with Vietnam. I could thank Councillor Borg for raising this issue. And hopefully we as Australians can assist those Afghan refugee because they are in special need at current stage relating to their circumstances. As a Western country, American and Australian, we have committed to assist those people in their country of need. And we, for whatever reason, two political reasons, we withdrawn and have not considered their future and their safety by doing so. So I thank you, Councillor Borg, for raising this, and hopefully we can assist in some way.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to this motion, councillors? We'll put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. I declare this motion carried. I'll go to item 13.3, supporting local businesses. Notice of motion 31/21. Councillor Kerr, thank you.
I'd like to put forward a motion that Council's procurement policy include provision to support the use of local business in providing services and supplies to Council.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Takos?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to second this notice of motion. Thank you.
Councillor Kerr, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, please. I have put forward this motion in response to the COVID pandemic and the many businesses in Brimbank that are severely struggling during these lockdowns. One thing COVID has taught us as a community is the importance of our local businesses and economy. We've been restricted for some time within the 5-kilometre radius. As a community, we have mostly supported local business, and I strongly believe Council should lead the way and support local where possible. In the Brimbank Local Jobs for Local People report commissioned by Council, it states, Council can use its own expenditure to support local businesses and local employment outcomes through weighting support for local businesses in council tenders and encouraging social procurement outcomes. There are a variety of ways that council can provide support and local procurement. Council is a significant procurer with more than 89 million allocated in the 21-22 capital works budget alone. As a local leader, council can continue to support the existing local buy processes and policies. Council can also more widely promote the benefits of all businesses procuring locally, which can help local businesses better understand the local impact of buying local. Through supporting local procurement, more money will circulate around the local economy as opposed to leaking to other nearby economies. Increasing expenditure that could have gone to another economy will produce local economic benefits, including supporting the creation of new jobs. For example, if 2% of council's capital works budget was won by local businesses, this would result in 1.79 million being retained in our local economy. I encourage all councillors to support this notice of motion for the benefit of our local economy and our residents. Thank you.
Councillor Tarkos, would you like to speak to this motion?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Hear to what Councillor Kerr said. That's absolutely so important for us to consider in these difficult times with the pandemic. Madam Mayor, at our St Albans precinct meeting yesterday, we discussed the huge impact of the pandemic is continuing to wreak on our small businesses. Many are struggling and on very fine line of being almost insolvent. What this means is that local people lose jobs. People then are struggling to pay their own way and mortgages. Precarious and challenging times for anyone with a business. So that's why I support this notice of motion. It's absolutely imperative that we practice what we preach. With our launch just even today of the local jobs, local people, we are saying we want to support local jobs with local people. So the way to do that is by procurement and supporting local businesses. The knock-on effect is that it keeps businesses viable and local people in jobs. We talked about jobs, and the other thing that I wanted to say is also that local businesses, when they're doing well, support our community back through sponsorships to sports clubs, to all kinds of awards for primary schools, etc. So our local businesses during the global shutdown have supported us. So we in turn need to show the support back by as much as we can offering business to them. We can't be directly involved in procurement, but we must look at ways that we can support local businesses, because it does mean that our local economy stays strong during these unstable and challenging times. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tarkos. Just before I move on to asking other councillors if they want to speak to it, I just have been notified that you, Councillor Tarkos, had your hand to speak on the previous motion, but I didn't see your hand, sorry.
That's okay, Madam Mayor.
Sorry. Would anyone else like to speak to this motion, councillors? Then I put this motion to vote.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yeah, I didn't see your hand up, Sarah.
Sorry, I wasn't sure. Yeah, I have a question. So the current procurement policy does already have a line about that provisions are in there that council has to support local businesses first. I would just like to clarify what this motion is asking to change.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr, would you like to answer that, or one of the directors?
So, well, the current procurement policy has a provision, but it doesn't preference local business. So what we're looking at is actually putting in a further amendment, and which should be coming out in a future report, where we can actually preference or delegate the authority for officers to use local businesses where possible. I don't have the wording right in front of me at this moment, but I can get back to you.
Yeah, because I definitely support the motion. I suppose my question is about what would be what would be the action, I suppose, that would result from our vote.
Can we get one of the directors?
It might be for the, yeah.
Thank you.
I'll let Andrew know.
Sorry,
Thanks,
Warren. I would have to get back to you on that one, unless you can answer that question, Warren.
Okay.
So I will note that Shane is on leave, and this is a discussion that I've had with Shane, and the wording will be amended. So it's probably something that we will need to refer back to Shane upon his return.
Through you, Madam Mayor. We're currently reviewing our procurement policy in accordance with the Local Government Act. And so part of, I think, what Councillor Kerr is referring to is strengthening Council's commitment to, where appropriate, sourcing and using local suppliers. It's not always possible to use local suppliers because they may not be able to meet the demands, but we'll certainly preference that, and that will come back to Council in the form of a revised policy, which, and I'll look at Andrew, only there's a blank screen, which I understand is currently under development, and will come back shortly.
Thank you. Would that answer your question, Sarah?
I think so. Just it's sort of this is like we're setting our intention that we would for it. It's not necessarily we have the exact actions that we want in the policy, but we are setting our intention that like the motion is an intention that this is a direction that the policy should go in.
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, it's saying that we will include that provision and will strengthen the provision in the amended procurement policy.
All right. Yeah, thank you for answering my questions.
Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Then we can put this out. Yep, Councillor Papalia.
I just wanted to say that well done, Maria. I really commend this motion. It is something that I strongly support and something that I think is super important, particularly at this time when small business are really struggling in our community, and any opportunity that we have to, you know, be the leaders in saying supporting local, and we're doing it, I think is commendable. So good initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to it? No? All right, we'll put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. I declare this motion carried. Thank you. We'll go to item 13.4, support for carers and residents with special needs. Notice of motion 32/21 with that is Councillor Kerr. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move this motion as per the business papers displayed. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Takos.
I'd like to second this notice of motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr, would you like to speak to this motion?
Thank you. A goal from the 2017 to 2021 Council Plan was an inclusive community. The strategic objective, our community members are safe, healthy and well. As part of that, we vowed to support increased participation in physical activity, create an environment where children are happy, healthy and safe, support access, equity, community participation and human rights for all citizens, promote social participation and inclusion for older and young persons, improve access and inclusion for people with disability, provide a strong network of equitable and accessible services, facilities, and open space. In consideration that the Brimbank Aquatic and Wellness Centre is one of the biggest projects to be delivered by the Brimbank City Council, I believe it is vital that this centre is 100% inclusive, accessible, and available to be utilised by all residents of Brimbank. This project is of great expense to ratepayers, and I have put forward this motion as a direct result of feedback from the local community and residents who are carers and/or living with a disability. As a carer myself of with a child with autism, I understand the importance of accessibility and inclusion. I have real lived experience in fighting for equity for my son. I know the feeling of being turned away from programs that don't cater for children with a disability, and the feeling that I have let my son down. I also understand the ageing population in our local area means we have many residents that are older that also need extra care and facilities. I will closely continue to monitor the results of the report and continue to advocate on behalf of carers and residents with a disability. I believe a dedicated carers hub should have been included in the centre to begin with. A world-class facility that is costing ratepayers in excess of $60 million could have included a dedicated carers hub. I will continue to pursue the possibility of such a hub, even if it means to be in a separate location. Councillors, I hope you can support this motion I have proposed on behalf of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Takis, would you like to speak to this motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Only to echo the very important words by Councillor Kerr and her lived experience, echoing what would be the experience of many people in our community, feeling that exclusion from activities, from programs, from facilities where they would like to benefit their child or their parent or a person with a disability, but they can't because there isn't that facilitation for that to happen. We have this once in a lifetime project ahead of us that is being tuned to the cost of ratepayers. So it's very important that we acknowledge that sector in the community that does miss out a lot of the good programming that is out there. But not only that, we've got carers also that are needing some time out from what they do as well. I thought it was really impressive that Councillor Kerr mentioned about the having the sensitive, sensitivity towards carers and low sensory spaces that are safe for people that may be on the spectrum. It's so important that we highlight that this is a big sector of our community that misses out on a lot of activities. But to include this in this once in a lifetime health and wellbeing hub would put us on the map as being a very inclusive facility. And how that takes shape will be very much not as important as the fact that it will be there and available. There are different ways that we can include it into the facility. But I want to stress that what Councillor Kerr said, as a carer myself recently, it is very hard to find facilities where you can get that kind of respite and support around. And a lot of them are booked out for months. So having this close to our homes for many people to use is something so important. And I'd like to commend Councillor Kerr for bringing forward this very important notice of motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Councillor Borg.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I strongly welcome this motion. The current proposed location for carers is not suitable for people with disability. As such, it's not fully inclusive. Unfortunately, the needs of people with disabilities, more specifically children who are high on the spectrum, on the autism spectrum, and require a safe, low sensory space, was overlooked. It's imperative that the needs of carers and residents are met through a dedicated hub that includes a space that is safe, private, and low sensory. Thank you, Councillor Kerr, for moving this motion.
Thank you. Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Well, then we're going to put it to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. I declare this motion carried. Councillors, I wish to lodge a notice of motion at this meeting. I know that under section 27.11 of the Brimbank governance rules, I must now vacate the chair, and the Deputy Mayor will now assume the chair for the duration of item 13.5. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. You're now chair of this meeting.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're now moving on to the last notice of motion of the night. It's item 13.5, getting the jab, formally speaking, the COVID-19 vaccination. Will the keys get the mover, Councillor Rasik, to speak?
Can someone please share the screen? And I move it as per shared screen.
Thank you. Is there a mover? Is there a seconder of the motion? Thank you, Councillor Karkos. Councillor Rasik, yes, thank you. Councillor Rasik, would you like to speak on your motion?
Yes, thank you. This motion recognises that Brimbank remains particularly vulnerable to the COVID-19 pandemic and urges both the federal and state governments to ramp up resources to increase Brimbank's vaccination rates. We'll welcome the federal government's recent announcement to increase the supply of Pfizer doses to Melbourne's Western North. A lot more needs to be done to ensure that we don't lag behind the rest of the state as lockdown restrictions are removed. This has now become more urgent following the announcement of Victoria's reopening roadmap earlier this week. As of yesterday, approximately 65% of Brimbank's residents aged above 16 had received one vaccine dose, and only about 35% were double vaccinated. This is still well below the Victoria state average, with about 73% now having received their first dose and around 45% fully vaccinated. The motion also urges the federal and state governments to increase their level of resourcing aimed at messaging that despises vaccine misinformation, particularly for cold communities. The recent unfair distribution of vaccine by the federal government favouring New South Wales was extremely disappointing. The federal government needs to focus on all states and territories across our nation, as this is a global pandemic, not a New South Wales pandemic. I call on the federal government to continue securing vaccine supplies, which should have been done a very long time ago. We need the federal government to work closely with all state leaders to make sure we can get out of this lockdown as soon as possible. We must continue to push to assist our residents make better informed decisions for not just us, but for our neighbours, councillors, who also have large cold communities. The quicker we can vaccinate our residents, the faster the safer our community will be, and the faster we'll get out of this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rasik. Councillor Tarkas, would you like to speak to the motion as well?
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd like to say that I'd really like to commend this notice of motion raised by our Mayor, and like to say, as part of the COVID response and recovery, that I've been watching it very carefully. Although our vaccination rates are below the national averages, only just today there have been positive moves for our municipality and also Hume, as I compare very much around what's happening in our area. What I find quite devastating is that a lot of that vaccine was sent to the wealthier suburbs, and our suburbs did miss out because there was a wild chase for a lot of people trying to find vaccinations or go to the one vaccination hub, which was Sunshine Hospital, and there was so much confusion on the ground about where to get vaccination. The other thing that I wanted to state is that Brimbank Council have been immensely important in coordinating the response with bicultural support workers, working with the CALD community and making sure that the messages are clear and evidence-based and not based on misinformation. That comes with a lot of hard work, working with our stakeholders and working with a lot of different agencies like IPC Health. I just also want to say that by virtue of our community, we have a lot of mobile workers, we have bigger families, which lends itself to being a higher incidence of COVID. So therefore, if we have these variables, we need greater support, we need greater resources, we need greater CALD education. So I support the Mayor's call that we, to the state and to the federal government, that don't blame us, help us, give us the resources, give us the tools so that we can help our community. Sure, the vaccine is coming here now, but with it, we need to have extra support and pop-ups, and not just that one Sunshine Hospital where people might find it hard from other areas to get to, and greater education and support around the CALD community and also the younger generation, many of them who are working in trades. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tarkos. Would any other council like to speak to this motion? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Yes, I'd certainly like to commend the Mayor for putting forward this motion and support the words that have been said by the Mayor and Councillor Tarkos in relation to this. It really is in terms of getting back to normal, and we need to get out of the lockdown as fast as possible. And we need to make sure that this is the last lockdown we have. And of course, the key to all of that is obviously vaccination rates. So the points being put forward by the Mayor are extremely important. The faster we get out of this, the better we will be in terms of jobs and the economy and the protection of people from the spread of this dreadful disease. So all I can say is I strongly support the Mayor's notice of motion and thank her for raising it.
Thank you, Councillor Lancashire. Any other councillors would like to speak on this? If not, let's put it to a vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. Thank you, councillors. The Mayor will now return to chair the remainder of the meeting.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Well, now we're going to go to 13.A, question time. Councillor, Mr. Scaria, we do have some questions.
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Yeah.
We do. The first question is from Lilani Francia, who asks, Brimbank seems to be quiet on their position regarding airport rail. What's your next plan, Ms. Rusick?
For many months, Council has been advocating strongly to ensure the Melbourne Airport Rail returns exceptional value to the local community, not just commuters. Tonight, Council is being asked to consider a report recommending a future step in our campaign for better local outcomes for our whole municipality.
The next question is from Fiona McDonald, who asks, will the council implement recycling for soft plastic currently handled by RedCycle? The majority of landfill for those recycling hard waste and have a worm farm is soft plastic. Without soft plastic, I would put out my bin once a month, half empty.
Council's waste recycling and litter strategy endorsed in 2018 lists the introduction of soft plastic into curbside recycling collection system as an action. Unfortunately, they are not considered as recycling. The Red Cycler initiative has a number of drop-off points in Brimbank, including Coles and Woolworths stores. It is the best option currently available for residents to recycle soft plastic.
The next question is from Margaret Judice, whose first question is, all residents receive their rates notices with the regular insert of Brimbank News. In the Brimbank News, several items are mentioned, including the Melbourne Airport rail link and the Fix the Calder campaign. What need was there then to receive a pamphlet in a letterbox with the same campaigns highlighted?
To effectively reach, inform and seek the support of our entire municipal community, advocacy campaigns should use many different communication channels and be consistently repeated over the time. This has been the priority of this newly elected council, and so far we have achieved many commitments and outcomes for the Brimbank community. Over the last 12 months, we have implemented advocacy skills never seen before here in Brimbank, which have led to record investment that will benefit our residents. I'm proud to be part of our council that has placed advocacy at the forefront of our agenda, and we will continue to do so.
The next question, Madam Mayor, is from Dorianne, who asks, this question may already have been asked before, but is there any chance of council considering installing dog poo bag dispensers around parks and walking areas in Canley?
Council is currently constructing a new fenced dog off-leash space at Calvin Flint Memorial Reserve in Canley. Dog waste bag dispensers will be provided at this location. Council supplies dog waste bag dispensers at all of its fenced dog off-leash spaces throughout the municipality, of which there are currently 8 in total.
The next question is from Graham Bloor, whose first question is Brimbank Council aware that a straw poll of Canley residents over 48 hours last weekend received 133 votes in favour of a multi-sports and community hub facility for the Canley development and only 2 votes in favour of more soccer pitches?
No, council is not aware of this straw poll.
The next question is from Alex, who asks, has there been a feasibility study done on the surrounding infrastructure to the proposed micro housing? Can it handle the influx of 800 plus people and their cars?
Council is unaware whether a feasibility study has been conducted.
The next question is from John Hedich, whose first question, without statements unrelated to the question, is Council advocating to Rail Projects Victoria and DOT Precincts Group to sort out the rail corridor complexities occurring between Sunshine and Albion up the line in the Tottenham to Stony Creek area to allow better placemaking and urban renewal outcomes to happen?
Yes, Council will continue to advocate for the best design outcome in accordance with the adopted Sunshine Station Super Hub and Albion Station Precinct urban design principles and the Sunshine Priority Vision 2050.
Next question is from Honey Benua, who asks, is it possible to have an indoor sports facility with basketball, badminton, table tennis, and volleyball courts in it? Melbourne weather can be extreme, and having these facilities is a healthier option than going to malls.
Council's indoor sports facility feasibility study 2020 details that strategies for indoor sports facilities. This include maximizing existing indoor sports facilities, developing new facilities and new and existing indoor sports facility sites, and developing partnership agreements with organizations such as schools to access and develop new indoor facilities. A copy of the study can be found on Council's website, which provides additional detailed information.
The next question is from Irene Stokes, whose first question is, the Mayor confirmed at the August Council meeting that a printer based in Port Melbourne has been used to print the Brimbank News and no doubt other council printing. Can the Mayor please confirm the name of this printer, the value of the printing work given to this Port Melbourne printer in the past 12 months, and whether a tender process was undertaken for council printing work.
The printer used for 75,000 copies of the 12-page A3 Brimbank News was Finsbury Green, following a competitive quotation process. I will further refer your question of costs to the responsible director to consider a response.
The next question is from Greg Stokes, whose first question is, in this month's performance statement, details that the annual community satisfaction survey results for the past 4 years show a small increase in satisfaction from 58% in 2018 to 61% in 2021, with a comment that this moderate increase in the rating result remains within the expected range by council. Why are council expectations so low?
Commentary attached to the results of the community satisfaction survey are provided by independent market research company, JWS Research. The evolution of results as being in or out of expected range is a comparison relative to all Victorian councils over previous and current years, not as absolute source or benchmark. As a consequence, it may not be realistic to expect significant change in satisfaction levels from one year to the next, as the metric appears to be relatively inelastic. Further detail can be found in the extended report published on the council website.
The next question, Madam Mayor, is from Despina Havilas, who asks, I'm concerned Brimbank City Council are waiving a lot of fees and putting a detailed report for Brimbank Bicycle Education Centre. Yet, under the lease, the community clause, there needs to occasional community use. What community use has this club done to warrant a detailed report to get special provisions and assistance?
The centre provides a range of community bicycle education programs and open days during which the community can access the facility at Gringali Reserve. The centre has been used by many local children, students, children with disability, and the wider community. This council is committed to helping our volunteers and local residents.
The next question is from Jamie Ramsey, Madam Mayor. His first question is, we have seen this council write a letter to state government regarding the lack of vaccine hubs, despite Brimbank having one of the highest number of COVID cases by LGA. Why has there not been online meetings with local MPs to discuss this crucial issue, which affects everyone in Brimbank, with the same public advocacy as dedicated towards the Save the Calder campaign?
Based on the Council's adopted 19-point action plan for COVID response and recovery, Council has been very active in advocating for increased levels of support from state and federal governments. Within tonight's agenda, a note regarding increased vaccination supply and increased vaccination promotion targeting CALD community is being considered by Council.
The next question is from Tim Everett, whose first question is, this is regarding the Canley DV site on the Acne off Ballarat Road and Canley DV. Why is Council unclear about your role, and why is it seen as better and more appropriate that community continue to provide feedback directly to Development Victoria until the Minister has made his decision? Will you not support the local Brimbank Canley community when we need you most?
Council strongly believes there should be the responsible planning authority. We understand that Development Victoria has asked the Minister for Planning to be the planning authority for the amendment. Council prefers to retain our planning powers. Given this uncertainty, it is appropriate that Council and the community continues to provide feedback direct to Development Victoria.
The next question, Madam Mayor, is from J1. Without statements unrelated to the question is, will Brimbank Council commit to providing sports facilities that allow for unorganised sports participation, such as casual and social games on the rise in popularity, and stature-like skateboarding, BMX tracks, and multi-purpose recreation spaces in the final stage of Canley being developed by Development Victoria?
Brimbank's Sports Facility Development Plan outlines Council's position regarding provision of sports facilities. In this case, Council is not proposed by the development to be the provider or operator of the sports facilities. The community can, however, provide feedback about its preferences to Development Victoria.
The next question, Madam Mayor, is from Diana Politi, who asks, when will we see exercise equipment and tables and seating along Cororoy Creek Millbank Drive side, which has been requested many times? It will make a huge difference for people's mental state during this pandemic and beyond. There is perfect open space for it, one being near the Deer Park Playgroup, brackets, Old Deer Park Kindergarten area.
Council understands the importance of the shared user path along Cororoy Creek, and it's currently extending the shared user path from Isabella William Memorial Reserve in Deer Park to Shepherd's Grove in Kings Park. Council officers will contact you to discuss the idea you have to extra seating and outdoor gym equipment along Millbank Drive.
The next question, Madam Mayor, is from Belinda Gajoni, who asks, I would like to know who is approving the possibility of low-income housing in Canley.
Development Victoria have advised us that they have asked the Minister for Planning to be the planning authority for the amendment to rezone the land. Council prepared to retain our planning powers.
The next question, Madam Mayor, is from Natalie Perez, who asks, a corner vacant land in Canley was being surveyed recently for a potential that a couple of townhouses will be built on the land. The owner has not reached out to other homeowners on both streets to ask for our approval, and when we bought our land, our understanding that in Canley there should only be one dwelling, brackets houses, to be built in one property. What is the process before a landowner in Canley can build more than one dwelling?
Many of the residential properties within Canley, including a covenant on the title that only allow one dwelling to be constructed. Without knowing the site in question, Council is unable to determine whether the site you are referring to include a covenant or what the planning controls over this property are. I will ask the Manager City Planning to contact you directly to discuss.
The next question, Madam Mayor, is from Fiona McDonald, whose second question is, will the ongoing COVID-19 situation lower the rates?
Councillors, we are at a 15-minute question time. If you want us to extend this question time, I would need a mover.
I'll move.
Councillor Darkos, thank you.
Move that we extend the question time.
Thank you. Councillor David, you are seconding?
Seconded, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Would anyone want to speak to this motion? I put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. I declare this motion carried, so we can go on. Sorry, Julian, for interrupting.
No, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. No apologies required.
Excuse
the
me,
other thing we'll need,
Madam Mayor. Excuse me. Apologies for the interruption. I just wanted to confirm that it's 9:58. We might also require an extension to the meeting.
To the meeting time as well, Madam Mayor.
I move a motion to extend the meeting time for another, I think it's by half an hour.
30 minutes is correct.
30 minutes.
Darkos, yeah.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second it, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor David. Would anyone want to speak to this motion? I put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. I declare this motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The question again from Fiona McDonald is, will the ongoing COVID-19 situation lower the rates?
Under Council's adopted budget, rates have been increased in line with the state government rate cap of 1.5%. Ratepayers that are experiencing financial hardship due to COVID-19 can apply to have an arrangement put in place or a deferral of rates up to 12 months under Council financial hardship policy.
The next question, Madam Mayor, is Margaret Giudice's second question, which is, can Council specify how much was spent and how can Council justify this expense given the greater need of support for families and businesses at this very difficult time?
I'll refer your question, of course, to the responsible director to consider a response. But our efforts have helped return tens of millions in state and federal investment, and we will continue to invest in community campaigns.
The next question, Madam Mayor, is from Graham Bloor, whose second question is, given the above result in only 48 hours, will Council commit to urgently re-examine their suggestion to Development Victoria of more soccer pitches in the Canley development and honour the overwhelming desire of the community for a vastly more diverse range of sporting and cultural activities in the Canley development?
Council's initial advice to Development Victoria for the site in Canley was based on the evidence based in Council's adopted sports facility development plan, which considers the current and further future sport needs of the Brimbank community. It's evidence-based and grounded in Brimbank's demographic and state sporting association participation and growth rates. Soccer is only one of many sports needs defined in the sports facility development plan. But due to Brimbank's overall demographic, it is the biggest sport need identified both new and in the future. Council is able to provide further information to Development Victoria on the other sports priorities identified in Sport Facility Development Plan.
Madam Mayor, the next question is from Alex, whose second question is, what will happen to the contaminated soil? Can people in the micro homes grow vegetables?
It is Council's understanding that an environmental audit is currently being conducted on the site to ensure that it is suitable for residential development. The final audit report will outline if there are any restrictions on activities such as growing vegetables on the site. As the audit has not been finalised, we are unable to provide a definitive response to this question.
The next question, Madam Mayor, is from John Hedich, whose second question is, in the upcoming draft Sunshine Station master plan development, will Brimbank Council be advocating to DOT precincts and rail projects Victoria for the longer term space and value creating option at the station precinct to ensure better placemaking, amenity and safety in the area? And Madam Mayor, I've omitted statements unrelated to the question.
Yes, Council will continue to advocate for the best design outcome for the Melbourne Airport Rail project in accordance with the adopted Sunshine Station Super Hub urban design principles and the Sunshine Priority Precinct Vision 2050.
The next question, Madam Mayor, is from Irene Stokes, whose second question is, additionally, we assume that if Council's local jobs for local people program is accepted, which clearly obligates Council to procure locally, Council will seek to immediately identify duly qualified and capable local printers for all its printing requirements. Please confirm, ?
As a council which has long valued local procurement where possible and providing best value, Council also regularly uses local prints such as Caris, Suncopy and Midway Print.
The next question, Madam Mayor, is from Greg Stokes, whose second question is, surely if Council was listening to ratepayers and residents and was providing the core services at the highest level, such as management of rubbish, maintenance of roads, council properties, parks, etc., while also keeping rates low, eliminating wasteful spending and increasing accountability, you could expect satisfaction levels to increase significantly.
Commentary attached to the result of the community satisfaction survey are provided by independent market research company JWS Research. Their evolution of results as being in or out of expected ranges is as comparison relative to all Victorian councils over previous and current years, not as an absolute score or benchmark. As a consequence, it may not be realistic to expect significant change in satisfaction levels from one year to the next, as the metric appears to be relevant inelastic. Further detail can be found in the extended report published on our council website.
Despina Havelas' second question, Madam Mayor, is Brimbank is a highly vulnerable region during pandemic. Why isn't Brimbank Council's Facebook page slow in posting important COVID information and at many times delayed news?
Council would strongly encourage the community to follow the Department of Health's Facebook to receive the latest information regarding COVID-19 health updates. Council shares information specific to Brimbank as it becomes available. Council gathers this from sources also available to the public to access. The most accurate and up-to-date information is by the Department of Health's website, which is coronavirus.vic.gov.au.
The next question, Madam Mayor, is from Jamie Ramsey, whose second question, without statements unrelated to the question, is: can Council advise why there is little understanding and minimal engagement between Council and Development Victoria on such an important project that affects the residents of Canley and surrounding suburbs for generations to come?
Council officers are actively engaged with Development Victoria about their proposed development at Canley.
Madam Mayor, the next question is from Mr. Tim Everett, who, as you will recall, has already submitted 2 questions that have been asked and responded to. Under Rule 57.8, no person may submit more than 2 questions at any one meeting. The next question then, Madam Mayor, is from J1, and it also relates to the proposal from Development Victoria in relation to the Canley site.
As this question relates to the proposed development at Canley, it is disallowed on the basis of Rule 57.12.3. This deals with a subject matter already answered.
The next question, Madam Mayor, is another question from Diana Politi, and it is: when will the revised landscaping and lighting be done at and around the Anzac Memorial at Sasella Park?
Council officers are investigating the installation of lighting for the Memorial of Sasella Park, and subject to the investigation in this, it is anticipated installation will occur in early 2020. Following this, further planning will occur in April 2020 to avoid planning in the hot summer months.
The next submission, Madam Mayor, is from Belinda Gajoni. It does not contain a question for Council and accordingly will not be read out. The next question, Madam Mayor, is from Natalie Perez, and it is: the questionnaire sent by Development Victoria included generic questions in their attempt to complete a community consultation, which was set up as a webinar on Zoom instead of a meeting. Therefore, the community did not have the opportunity to engage among themselves with the representatives from Development Victoria, and the time was limited to cover the questions and concerns from those who have attended. Can we request Development Victoria to provide and publish the minutes meeting and or a recording of the Zoom webinar?
Consultation that you referred to was conducted by Development Victoria, not Council. So it is open to you to require this information from Development Victoria.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's all the questions that Council has received that comply with the governance rules. We did also receive an additional 3rd question each from Margaret Giudice, Irene Stokes, and Greg Stokes. Under Rule 57.8 of the governance rules, no person may submit more than 2 questions at any one meeting, and therefore these questions will not be read out.
Thank you, Garrett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Liu.
Madam Mayor, just a bit of correction in relation to the question from Anna Pelosi. regarding the installation at Anzac Memorial Park. It's 2022, not 2020. Installation will be 2022.
I think I read out 2022.
Okay, that's what I read it. Thank you.
Following this, further planting will occur in April 2022 to avoid planting in the hot summer months. Is that what that's Diana Pilati? Yeah? We're going to go to item 14, notice of motion rescission. There are no rescission motions. I'm going to go 15, urgent businesses. I'm going to ask our interim CEO, Warren Roberts, if there is any urgent business for tonight.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, there are no matters of urgent business for consideration tonight.
Thank you. I'm going to go to item 16, confidential businesses. There are no confidential businesses for tonight. Thank you all for attending and for your interest in tonight's meeting. I declare this meeting closed at 10 p.m.